Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services here today, we would kindly ask if everyone would please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi Lo Echzar, Bino Deshe Yarbitzeni, Almei Menuchot Yinahaleni, Nafshi Yishovev Yancheni V'Maglei Tzedek Leman Shemo. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me to lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. God guides me in straight paths, for that is God's name's sake. Gam ki elech begates al mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yinachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorirai. Dishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya. Ach tov vachesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti beveit Adonai liorech yamim. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you, God, are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Kirachem av al banim, richam Adonai al yireav. Ki hu yada yitzreinu, zachur ki afar anachnu. Enosh kechatzer yamav, kitzitz hasadeh, ken yatzitz. Ki ruach avrabo, ve'enenu, ve'lo yakirenu, od mekomo. Ve'chesed Adonai me'olam v'ad olam, al yireav, ve'tzidkato livnei vanim. As a father has compassion for his children, Adonai has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them, and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But Adonai's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures, age after age, unchanging. And now invite Albert's daughter, Judy, to please come up and share some thoughts.
Thank you all for being here today. It really means so much to us. If you look up the term family man, you see a picture of my dad. His primary focus in life was taking care, protecting, and providing for his family with love and generosity of spirit. Since he was a teenager, he stepped up and took responsibility for his family. He was one of 7. Yet he was the one who took the responsibility on to support his family financially and emotionally. He was the one to sacrifice and to earn so that his family could love and live in their home in Philadelphia. At this time, he also made money fighting as a welterweight, professionally, like the then current famous Rocky Marciano. He was called Rocky, the name that stuck. For several nieces and nephews would always call him Uncle Rocky all his life, and he even won a few fights. My mom and dad met when she was 21 and he was 24. They fell madly in love, and not 6 months later were married. They were married for 66 years. They were truly soulmates to share. They support and adore each other and were the best of friends. When he was a young man, he began to work at an offset printing shop. At just 25, he had the good fortune and opportunity to take over and co-own the business with the owner's son. At this point, he was a young business owner in Philadelphia. He worked hard, sometimes 16 hours a day. He learned and he grew the business by doing both sales and the physical printing work. He was so charismatic with his beautiful blue eyes and so skilled that he and his partner succeeded in the printing business. We as his family benefited from the fruits of his labor. When we lived in my parents' first home in the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia, he saw how the neighborhood was changing. To provide a safe, beautiful home with a great school system, Dad took on the huge financial burden and built a new home in the wilds of Cherry Hill. It was a big stretch, and he was willing to do his best and work hard to provide for his family. I will always be grateful for the opportunity to live in a great neighborhood with wonderful friends in a predominantly Jewish area, and to go to an excellent school system. My dad instilled in us to have a great work ethic, kindness, have a strong shoulder to lean on, and provide service to others. This has grown to be an important element in all of our lives. My dad did not cook, but he had one specialty, and that was his spaghetti sauce, which took 5 hours to make. And Dad's mother, my wonderful grandmother, and my roommate lived with us and helped take care of my brothers and me. She worked hard for many years in my dad's business, and Lillian was the loyal, caring, loving person that had allowed my parents special time alone to go on vacations. She loved his sauce and sat next to my dad at the dinner table. This was a tricky spot because my dad fed whoever was sitting next to her. And he would say, "It's a good day for spaghetti, Mom." She worked in his printing business for as long as I could remember. My brothers and I, and his partner's kids would come in during the summer, and we would work. Yet I always remember that even in our youth, my grandmother always outdid and outlasted all of us. At the time of my bat mitzvah, my mom had gone back to college for her degree in art. There was a 3-week art trip to London, Paris, and Amsterdam. And that was my bat mitzvah celebration. It was 20 some odd students, a few chaperones, and Mom, Dad, and me. We had an amazing trip. I remember, aside from all of the beautiful sights we saw, that there were many times that I had special time where it was just my dad and me. We explored shops, ate at pubs, had adventures. We shared special times together outside of the group, and I will always remember and cherish those. One of my dad's favorite pastimes was golf at a lovely country club called Little Mill. We sometimes went there for lunch. I even had my Sweet 16 party there. After working so hard all week, he enjoyed weekends playing golf with his friends. It was the highlight of his week. When I got married to Steve, was working in finance and got my MBA, my dad was fiercely proud of me. Steve and I had so many parties, birthday parties, family parties, pool parties, milestone events that we enjoyed together, and they are special memories for us. He was thrilled to be a grandfather. He had David and Jason through Gary, and then Laura and Andrew through Steve and me. He adored my children and was always proud of their accomplishments. He often bragged to his golf friends about them. His joy was to make them laugh and to smile. My dad was a man who always liked to be in control. He was the king of his castle. He hated this illness because it took control from him. And it took him so fast. He stopped being able to do so many things he loved, to shop, to drive, and to run around. Jeff and Bruce, you can be very proud of yourselves for helping Dad during these final months of his life. He no longer had control, and he hated that. But Bruce and Jeff, you were so helpful to Mom and Dad. I saw all that we had to do when we pitched in to help with all the medical things and the household necessities that had come up. Bruce, all of the times he went up and down the stairs, helping Mom and Dad, tying his shoes, helping him dress. Jeff, you drove them to appointments and shopped, taking Bruce places. I am very proud of you. You are great men, real mensches. You learned that from Dad. Dad always took care of everyone, provided for us, and gave us good advice. These last few days, my Mom and Dad were blessed to be supported by all of you. We heard so many stories of love, help, and advice that my dad gave to so many. Lynn, you were such a special, important, and fun part of my dad and mom's lives. Your generosity of spirit and health were valued and enjoyed. The trips to Atlantic City were the highlight of their lives. They enjoyed the casinos, but they were also touched by the spirituality of being at the ocean. They felt God. Thank you for the great care, advice, and love. My dad adored you. Debbie told me that she enjoyed the advice and encouragement of her favorite uncle and would greatly miss him. A special and huge thank you to Shelby for her amazing friendship, help, great care, advice, and love. She has been an integral part of the family effort to get us through these months. I cannot tell you how important you have been. You are very, very special. My heart aches for my mom and brothers. Not having Dad in their daily lives will be difficult, but we can be relieved that Dad is no longer in pain. He's probably up in heaven hanging out with Grandma and brothers and sisters and his son and his grandson. He may even schedule a round of golf with some of his old friends, I think. Please be comforted that he had a wonderful life with a loving wife and family and friends, and he was relatively healthy all of his life. Thank you all for being such an important part of his life. My dad was very sentimental. He appreciated and kept cards, accents, and beautiful poems from my mom. He was a rare person because he often expressed to his soulmate how he loved, admired, and appreciated her. They were a unit, lived life together, and in a shared love bound by very strong ties, a true love story. May you all have precious memories of my father, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
I now invite Albert's wife, Shirley, to please come up and share some memories.
I would also like to thank everyone for coming. Al was very, very special. And he would always say, I pray to God every day to make me a better father. He was a wonderful father. His children can tell you many of the things that Judy talked about, the way he instilled loving kindness and hard work. His children meant everything to him. He was generous. He had a quick wit. We used to laugh because I said, what made you say that? That's funny. How did you think of that? And he said, it's just a gift. He loved to kid around, whether we were in a restaurant or checking out. He would tell me, he would call me his mother and say, "Don't make the bags too heavy for her." And I said, "That's not funny." He often said his humor was a vital tool to get him through every day. Many of the people I've talked to have said they will remember him with a smile. No matter how bad a situation could be, he'd try to lighten it up, try to be grateful for the good things in our lives. He loved to make people laugh. That was one for me. I got them to laugh. It was his hallmark. At 91, he was energized. He was full of life. He loved life. He wanted to live. This cancer was so aggressive, it ravaged his body into his bones and his legs, and he was not able to walk. How terrible for a man who enjoyed walking, just walking. It took away his independence and ultimately his life. This morning, Bruce and I were talking about the many weeks at home that we dressed him, undressed him, took personal care, and sad for Judy and Jeffrey that they just weren't as close at that time when Al was more lucid. Our many nieces and nephews really loved Uncle Al. He was fun to be with. He spent quality time speaking with his 4 sisters. Whenever anyone was sick, he was the first to go to the hospital to visit. He had cheerful banter with Sister Faye. His 98-year-old sister, Daylene, who lives in Florida, said he was such a good man, and she will miss him terribly because he always called her every day if we could. His sister Penny, they were so much alike, and when they talked, sparks flew. And Roz, his older sister, who encouraged him in business and respected his work ethic, but mostly with his mother. A devotion and love from a son that was so close than anything anybody could imagine. She was his inspiration. She was his guiding light. She was for all of us. She has, I think, 7 grandchildren named after her. The little pillow that you made, Lynn, with Grandmom's picture is in the coffin with him, so that she is with him. He had a very special friendship with you, Lynn. It brings back so many wonderful memories. We had fun, laughs. We used to dance. We had good times. And your love and devotion is something we will never, ever forget. And Becky and Allison, who were a part of that. You brought them up well. They are good girls. He touched so many lives family, friends, business people, medical people. He always wanted the best for his family. He was the best husband, and he will forever be in my heart and in my mind until my time comes to join him. I write poetry, and this was a poem I wrote on our 66th anniversary, April 3rd. It was spring. We were so in love. We knew from the start we were blessed from above. When we married in 1955, I was 21 and you were 24. We knew we were soulmates, never to be alone anymore. So much has happened these past 66 years. We've supported each other and shared many tears. Each year, each day, each moment is precious. We've always been together with love, laughter, and devotion. I miss the touch of your hand, the love shining in your eyes, the love of my life. Be at peace, my darling. You are here in my heart forever.
I had the pleasure of meeting Albert on a few occasions as his daughter, Judy, son-in-law Steve, and their family are members of my congregation, Bethel Synagogue, in East Windsor, New Jersey. In addition, Albert's brother-in-law, Jay Cooperman of blessed memory, sat in front of my parents in their synagogue on many Shabbat mornings. And I would look forward to speaking with him when I visited them. I hope that the words that leave my heart will enter your hearts and bring you some consolation at this time of your loss. The fact that all people eventually die has always served as a lesson to the living. We cannot long evade the consciousness of our mortality and fail to draw therefrom some fundamental lessons on how to live our lives. And as we become conscious of this fact, we cannot help repeat the prayer of the psalmist, Limnot yameinu kein hodah, v'navi levav chokhmah. So teach us to number our days, that we may get us a heart of wisdom. It takes great wisdom to use the days that God has granted to us wisely and well. For once we have let time pass, we can never reclaim it. On the other hand, all that has happened within that time is never lost. Passing time is not only a thief, but it is also a trustee. And whether we regard time as a thief or as a trustee determines how we will live our lives. We can live our lives in fear and in sadness, like a person who daily tears a sheet from their calendar and thinks only that the calendar grows thinner with each passing day. Or we can live our lives with joy and hope and a sense of achievement, like a person who keeps a calendar diary and each day records their daily accomplishments, filing away each annual volume with its predecessors. The family of such a person can, at an hour such as this, reflect with pride and joy on all the richness that has been set down in these notes. And they can look back upon a life that has been lived to the fullest. And they can be rest assured that not only the reality of work done, but of loved, and of suffering suffered, that all that is good and beautiful in that life will be safely preserved and treasured in the hearts and the memory of those whose lives have touched and been touched by such a person. Albert Sadoff was a faithful trustee of the days and the years that were granted to him. Intellectually, we agree with Kohelet, with Ecclesiastes, that there is a time for birthing and a time for dying. But emotionally, we find it difficult to accept the loss of a dear relative or friend. And tradition encourages us to accept the immortality of our loved ones by affirming that the death of an individual does not mean his end. The memories will continue to live on through us. And it is quite clear from the wonderful tributes by Judy and by Shirley that the memories of Al will continue to live on in the lives of all those who loved him and all those who were touched by him. Family was clearly most important to Albert. He was a devoted husband to Shirley for 66 plus years, would have been 67 this April 3rd. A loving father to the late Gary, Jeffrey, Bruce, and Judy. A caring father-in-law to Sheila and Steve. An adoring grandfather to David and Shelley, the late Jason, Laura, and Andrew. A dedicated brother and brother-in-law to Daleen, Faye, Rosie, and Kay. A special uncle and a great uncle. Shirley used the word beshert. I think that really does capture the relationship that you had. And we saw today one of those beautiful poems that you wrote to Al. And we know that he was a wonderful father and grandfather, as we've heard as well. He was born in a very important place, in Philadelphia, that's where I'm from. And he loved shopping. Whatever it was, he enjoyed it. But he also especially liked good clothes. He was a great dresser. He bought a lot of shoes. Told there's a lot of things he bought he never really actually wore. He loved to shop in Macy's, and also, for those of you that would remember, John Wanamaker's. One of the things that Al and Shirley did was, whenever they went places to visit, of course, they would have to go to the stores so that Al could do some more shopping. But in addition to loving clothes, I know that it was mentioned he didn't really cook, but what wasn't mentioned is that he loved good food. And one of the places that he shopped for food was at the Reading Terminal, where he would buy the best meats. And because he was so charismatic, he, of course, made friends with the butcher. And that humor, I think, also helped along the way. He enjoyed going to the casinos in Atlantic City, and he loved reading the newspaper, the Inquirer, every day. Loved playing and watching golf. And as a business owner in the 1970s, there was a lot of pressure to buy Eagles and Phillies season tickets. And so that's what Al did, and they went as a family to many games. He also contributed and attended, of course, the Thrill Show, which is a very important part of the city of Philadelphia, attending the Mummers Parade on New Year's, going to Philly Pops concerts, all kinds of shows. From a Jewish perspective, he felt very spiritually attached. It was mentioned by Shirley that he would pray to God every day, that he would be a good father. And when they went to Atlantic City, Shirley and Al had a special affinity for sitting by the ocean. And what would they do by the ocean? They would pray. They would pray there, and they would feel God's presence. They had been members of Temple Emmanuel here locally, as well as at one point Temple Beth Shalom. And Al cared deeply about the Jewish value of tzedakah, of charity. Two places that he contributed most was to the Jewish Federation and the Jewish Family and Children's Service. And Al made sure that his wife and that his children displayed their pride in being Jewish by wearing either a Jewish star or a chai. One of the things that he did is that every time Al and Shirley would visit wherever they would go, they would always check out the synagogue or a Jewish cemetery. And the reason was that he really wanted to understand how Jewish life was taking place in all of these various places. On December the 6th, he was unfortunately diagnosed with bladder cancer that had metastasized. Interestingly, just in October, he was raking leaves, he was driving, and he was shopping. Unfortunately, he declined very quickly, yet he continued to be hopeful throughout his illness. Al looked at life with the glass half full, and that's the way he looked at life throughout his life. When I was speaking yesterday to Shirley and to Judy, I asked them what would they miss most about him. Shirley said that it was Al's love. And many times that they would talk, that he would say how much he loved her, how much she made his life full and happy. And Shirley has actually kept every greeting card that Al gave her. And Judy said that she would miss his charisma, his handsomeness, his beautiful blue eyes that she referred to, his ability to give advice and to live life to its fullest. How when he walked into a room, he lit up the entire room. Al was a wonderful person who was devoted to his family, enjoyed talking to people, and sharing his humor. He was fun to be around, and ultimately, he touched many people's lives. Limon yameinu kevoda, v'navi levav chokhmah. So teach us to number our days, that we may get us a heart of wisdom. Those words could have been written thousands of years ago, attributed in our tradition to King David. They could have been written for Albert Sadoff. He was someone who truly had that lev chokhmah, that heart of wisdom, and he took that heart of wisdom and he imparted it to his family, to his friends, to his community. And having said this, what comfort can we now bring to you, his survivors? Only that which you yourselves can find in your sweet memories of him. For it is all too easy for us to say, that Al lived a good, fruitful, and long life during his over 91 years on this earth. But to his family and friends, his passing leaves a wound which only time can heal, and an emptiness which not even time can fill. I hope you will choose to remember his leiv tov, his good heart, his many acts of gemilut chasadim, his many acts of loving kindness, his love of his family, and the idea that the glass was always half full, and that it will inspire you as you live your own lives. I would like to just address a few words to you, Shirley, who will no doubt feel his loss most each day. You spent almost 67 years together in marriage, and you've both been there for your family. And I know that they will be there for you during the challenging days, weeks, and months ahead, as this was the family that you and Al built together. May God grant our Sadoff Avraham ben David HaKohen V'Leah everlasting rest and peace, as his life was a blessing for so many. So do we pray that his memory be a blessing as well. And let us say, Amen. Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, Creator of heaven, earth, man, and woman, be gracious to your children who mourn. May the light of your presence dispel the gloom of absence so keenly felt on this sad day. Bless them, O God, with your compassion. Empower them with your love. Touch them with the fullness of your heart, that they may be granted inner peace. Was it not you, O God, who said, Al tira ki imcha ani, al tishta ki ani Elohecha, imatzticha, af azarticha, af temachticha, bimin sidki. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will sustain you with my power. As we remember the blessings in Albert Sadoff's life, we ask you, Eternal One, to remember your promise to us, and let us say, Amen. I ask you at this time to rise for the El Malei Rachamim, the traditional memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochem Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashechina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Tahorim, Kizohar Harakia Mashirim, Et Nishmat Avraham ben David HaKohen V'Leah Sheholach Le'olamo, Began Eden Tehi Menuchato, Ana Baal Harachamim, Hastileha B'Seter, Kenofecha Le'olamim, Utzror B'Tzror HaChaim, Et Nishmato, Adonai Hunachalato, V'yaruach B'Shalom HaMishkavo, V'noimar, Amen. Eternal God, from whom we come, and to whom we belong and return, in whose hands are the souls of the living and the dead, in whose keeping no soul is ever lost. Grant, we pray, perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of your presence to the soul of Albert Sadoff, son of David HaKohen and Leah, husband of Shirley, father of the late Gary, Jeffrey, Bruce, and Judy, father-in-law of Sheila and Steve, grandfather of David and Shelley, the late Jason, Laura, and Andrew, brother and brother-in-law of Daleen, Faye, Rosie, and Kay, uncle, great uncle, son of Israel, who has been reunited with you and his loved ones in eternity. God of mercy, bring them together under the shelter of your presence, and may their souls be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May they rest in peace, and may their memories abide as a benediction. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. The interment will follow immediately at Shalom Memorial Park in Lower Moreland Township, Pennsylvania. Family and friends who are fully vaccinated are invited after the cemetery or at 4 p.m. if you're not going to the cemetery, where Shiva will continue until 8 p.m. at the home of Shirley Sadoff, 415 South Cranford Road in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. In addition, Judy will be sitting Shiva following the interment through Friday at 2 p.m. Due to COVID-19, Shiva will be private. There will be services minyanim Monday evening at 8 p.m. and Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. at Bethel Synagogue, 50 Maple Stream Road, East Windsor, New Jersey, or via Zoom at www.bethel.net. And you can also go on our live stream there as well and be on the primary account.
May we have the pallbearers, please? I will ask everyone to rise once more, please.
Yoshev Sefer Elyon, Yisrael Shaddai, Yitzhak, Omar Ladonai, Machzi, Utsudati, Elohai, Eftachol, Kihu Yatzilcha, Mipam Yakush, Videver Avot, Bevato, Yasaflach, Utafat, Kenasam Shesam, Tina Vesachera, Mitra Lotira, Mipachat Laila, Mechutziel Yomam, Videver Bo, Falialo, Pekedev, Shotzoroyim, Yipo, Mitzitvel, Tovim Minecha, Elech Lo Yigash, Rak, Binecha, Tavi.